Action.
Hey, so today we're talking about making a terrarium. So, a little backstory. I attended the Northwest Flower and Garden Show back in the middle of February. And while I was there, I attended at the plant clinic this Bunkers for Begonias event. And this wonderful woman, Anne Amato, was going on about all the different varieties of begonias. Now, I've always loved begonias. I have probably about a dozen tuberous begonias that I grow every year on the patio, but I'd never gotten into the indoor ones, and many of them do well in a terrarium. So, because I'm the person I am, I decided, I need to find out more about this. So I joined the local chapter of the American Begonia Society, the Pacific Northwest Begonia Society, and I was checking all the information on there, talking to some of the folks. And then recently I went to the Northwest Orchid Society plant sale and hooked up with the fine ladies at the Pacific Northwest Begonia chapter table, talked with them, and they helped me pick out a begonia. We went with the Begonia rondeau, and while I am far from an expert, I have never made a terrarium. Let's look at this as an experiment together. I have watched a video on Terrarium 101 by Joanna Sims with the American Begonia Society, and did some other research. And so that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to make a terrarium. My wife found this amazing urn-shaped pot at a thrift store, and I thought, well, that would be a cool thing to do. So that's what we're going to turn into a terrarium. So stick along with me and let's see if this works out. So one of the things that I did find out is you want to have all your supplies together. So I got the begonia, I have the terrarium, and then over here I've got some supplies. So we've got, when you're working with terrariums, you want tweezers and different kinds of tweezers, something to get in there, a snip, so you can maintenance, clean it, a cute little brush so you can clean off the leaves after you get it in there, and I'm guessing I'm going to make just a horrible mess, and then a brush so you can push down and clean the sides of the actual terrarium. Now with this terrarium, it came with this urn, if you will, it came with a cork stopper, so I got a little grow light, put it in there, and that's gonna what's gonna be there to provide the light. And then you need drainage material. I'm going with pumice. According to all the information I saw, you can go with any sort of you go perlite, you could go gravel, chicken grit, anything of that nature. But you want to make sure to rinse it and then use it pre-moistened. And then you're going to want some moss. So I am going the route of moss. Moss isn't the only option to use, but that's the route I'm going. I went with the long fiber sphagnum moss because that's what was recommended. And then here a few days ago, I put a container this size, so a 7 liter bag into a plastic bucket with a lid. And then I added 5 cups of boiling water. And then over the last few days, it's just been getting saturated. Well, it's getting wet. The moisture, it's getting moisturized. So we'll get back to the moss. So let's start with the plant. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is, because you're working with some different materials, is make sure that, all your tools are sanitized. I've got me a handy dandy little spritzer bottle and put some rubbing alcohol in it, isopropyl. Yeah, who knows? I could be pronouncing that right. Hard to say. And then we're going to be working with moss, we're going to be working with pumice, we're going to be working with plant material. So we're going to just use some gloves, cleaner that way. One of the first things you're going to want to do though is make sure to prune, maintenance your plant prior to putting it in there. So we're going to start with that. And because I feel like that's a lot of plant for that little container. I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts on the subject. I am going to also then try my hand at propagating. So, good rule of thumb I've always been told, you don't want the leaves touching the soil or the medium you're using. So we're gonna cut some of those, and I'm just gonna lay them on my moss here, and then I'll put the lid back on it just so that it can keep moist until I figure out what I'm doing. This was a little dry, this begonia, when I got it. It has been perking up. I've been keeping it in the in the bucket with my moss. So I'm just going to trim this back, and then anything that's kind of wrinkly, dead, we're going to make it a little bit smaller. And if I understand things right, it'll perk up in time if I've done this right, or it'll just die. I'm hoping for the first, not the latter. One of the cool things that, boy, that's just a lot of leaves, but you know what? That's fine. I will trim that, maintenance that a little bit. Oh, there's some ones down here that just don't look like they're doing so hot. I'll go through and pick at that a little bit later. So this is a rhizomatous begonia. And one of the things that was pointed out to me is that this piece right here is just going to continue to grow as it gets happy inside my terrarium, perhaps even growing up the side of it. And that's going to add some really neat look. I liked this one because of the different colors that's going on. And I look forward to seeing what it does for me. It's kind of like a salad, maybe a little bit of oil and vinegar, and we can have that with lunch. You know what? I'm going to take this just a little bit more. Am I being too aggressive? Ooh, I don't know, but you know what? I got to fit that in that little tiny hole. And well, the directions I feel that I found and I researched and I looked at seemed really good and really straightforward. I guess that was one thing I never considered, is how big is too big? What do we want to do with the plant? So we'll find out. So I'm just gonna put this off to the side and I'll address that later. No one needs to watch that part of the program. Then let's start setting up the terrarium. So this is my moistened moss. Let's see here. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to get some moss. I want to put some moss in there first of all. And then I'm just going to kind of push it to the sides. While we're doing that, you know, one of the things that I was kind of curious about was the drainage material. Well, if one of the things you have to be concerned with is overwatering, are you going to put enough in there for the need of drainage? And how much drainage material do you need? In my book, all good questions. So on the video I watched that was giving directions, Terrariums 101, it said to fill it, you know, half full, 2/3 full with moss. So I'm going to fill it this full. Take a look there. I'm going to fill it this full. I'll push my moss out. And what we're doing here is just so we can hide the drainage material, just for that visual appeal. All right, and then I've got a nice pocket that disappears as soon as I tilt it, so I'm not going to show it to you. You're just going to trust me because my hand is disappearing when you look at it. Then I am going to take, of course that ain't going to fit. I'm going to take, oh, you know what? I'm just going to pour it right down the center. And try to drip as much water on my oak table as possible while doing so. Okay. Then I'm going to take and just kind of futz with it a little bit. So I've got about this container's full of drainage material, and I'm using pumice today. I had a bag of pumice, and I thought that would be a good avenue to go. So now let's get more. And so the moss, like I said, about 3 or 4 days I've had it hydrating. That was the word I was looking for, hydrating. So I've had it hydrating for about 3 to 4 days, and then today I went through and I took out all the sticks and leaves and things of that nature, and then I cut it so that it was about a 1/2 inch long. So that was the sphagnum long fiber. Then I'm going to make a hole with my hand here in the center to accept the plant. So we're not going to need this plant stake other than to make a memory of what it was. I'll put this to the side. All right, now the fun begins. I think I want to put it in so it looks just like this. So that'll be the front, and it'll look just like that. So, well, don't know that that's what I wanted to happen, as I just threw it down there. Well, that little guy did not spend much time in that big old pot. That's a little 2-inch pot that it was living in. So I'm just going to gently try to break up the gardener in me says I need to break those roots up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. And then while I have it here, I'm going to take a look and also see what else needs to go away. That's a root. It's a dead leaf. Perhaps I've done more than I should have as far as butchering it. But I feel like it's going to fit in there. Well, you can feel that. It's like a spine. It's like a spine coming up, and that's the root ball down below it. Oh. Maybe I should have taken it out before. I started trimming it. But you know what? Like I said, this is my first time. We will see what happens. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna say this is good. Oh, look, there's some new growth there. Now to lower it down into its new home. And we're gonna cover that soil area, its roots, make sure the roots are covered with moss. So it can stay nice and moist. Let's see here. All right, let's see. I'm gonna take a gander at it. I am not liking how it's sitting in there. So I'm gonna adjust my hole a little bit to get it further ahead. It should allow it to stand up a little better. Boy, I wonder, the video that I watched was more of a slideshow presentation and less of a, here, watch me do it. And now I kind of understand why. I'm sure that there are many that are very experienced at doing this sort of thing and can make it look incredibly easy. That is not me. Okay, now let's see what we can do here. I'm done with that. I just want to get the moss off of the plant. I'll be excited when it perks up and grows. On the outside, I leave for a few days tomorrow, so maybe I'll just come back and it'll be dead and I can start fresh. I don't know. Okay, so we got stuff that can grow in those areas. And then let's take a look at the leaves. And that's where this handy dandy brush would come in. You could brush them off, but I'm not thinking I've got an issue there. So I'll just brush the side off. However, I am going to take this brush and push down around the side so I can get any moss that I had on the glass put back. Not sure what that was. Oh, pumice, that's what it was. I was using pumice. I don't know what I think about that. Well, from the front, I am liking that. So, I hope I made this as difficult looking as possible. I'll tell you, it's not an easy thing to do. That is for sure. And perhaps I just had too big of a plant. In my head, I envisioned that the moss would only come up to about here, and that's where the plant would be. And maybe it should have. But this is a larger part of the glass container, so it just, to me, it made sense to have it set so it's there, so that's where it can grow and grow up. So over the course of the next couple weeks, months, or days, depending on how quickly it dies, we will find out if I did this right. And from there, I can figure out how to do it better next time. And one of the things that you gotta always do whenever you're trimming plants, whether it's a begonia, Dieffenbachia, a ficus, whatever, propagate those things. So if it does go out the window, you got a new one to try with. And hey, I was only out about 10 bucks for the plant. So this is my example. I'm gonna get this cleaned up and then I'll show you the final product.